or to
Yeah,
even start with
sure. I mean, since we last talked, in our last talk, we had obviously discussed that they should be making all these closings, school closing, college closings, everything optional right away, and suggested that. And what would have happened is what the steps that they are taking right now of converting everything to online, they putting all these classes online and preparing. This would have been done then, and we would have already been through into the shutdown now. Even one case is too many. Yeah. Once a person gets it, he's going to spread it to, he or she is going to spread it to way more people. We know that this is highly contagious, just like the flu. It's like any other virus. It's going to spread, and this is the season for it to spread. So that's number one. Number two, I'm reading in the news, and I don't know how far this is true, if this has been documented, about China doing the whole public relations campaign now, PR control or whatever, blaming the United States Army to have infected people in China, and it's not made in China. It originated here somehow as a biological weapon and then spread there. This is just absolutely ridiculous that China is doing this. And anytime a country or a government invests so heavily invests as in, I don't know how much money, but I'm saying about time and effort in propaganda, this starts to sound like a war machine in progress.
Yeah, you're right. Yep.
Because all wars start with a propaganda. Except here, the action has already been taken by this foreign government, and the propaganda follows. So the sequence has changed a little bit, but it still smells like a war to me.
That's a good point. I hadn't thought about in terms of their PR machine. You're right. I've seen that too. Where I've heard, number one, that there's rumors in China on like Weibo and stuff like that the U.S. This is a biological weapon from the U.S. And then I've also heard here, right, that people saying, oh, this is a biological weapon developed by China, right? Like it wasn't, it's not some natural thing that China developed it and launched it. And then I've heard a third one I've heard two. I heard another one where it was developed in Canada, and then Chinese scientists or spies or something stole it, took it to China, and launched it there. And the fourth one was that it was developed by the U.S. and that we like somebody crooked or whatever, like or our government that's been happy to do business and whatever with China gave it to them, sold it to them or gave it to them, something like that. That was the fourth one I've heard.
Yeah.
So
but those all may be rumors, but one fact remains is the Chinese government is investing time and effort in this propaganda.
Yeah. There's
the U.S.
government.
Exactly. The U.S. government is not doing that. Canadians are not doing that. Nobody's really doing it, at least in official capacity. But these guys,
the opposite. If anybody says, "Oh, this is a biological weapon by China," they're like, "What the? What's wrong with you? Are you crazy?" To even suggest that, like biological warfare exists, which we all know that it does. Come on, guys. Like to suggest that is like ridiculous for some reason here, right? It's anathema. But you're right. The opposite there, which is like you said, it's propaganda. It's but that's I even heard there's a book that was like scheduled to be launched in China, and I saw like they had like the cover and stuff like that. So I don't know if it was like launched and then they like stopped making a big push on it. But something about it was a book like celebrating President Xi's like conquering of coronavirus. Like like he's a genius and like beat the evil coronavirus and all this stuff.
Oh, so the book was already printed before the coronavirus hit everybody?
No, not that. It's just that a book is like published and like I think it was released and like it was gonna be pushed out, and then
Yeah.
And then they started getting more cases. They're like, wait, maybe we better hold up on that book, you know?
But
like, exactly, like, propaganda just all set up. And we know they've got, controlled internet and all this stuff, and they're just very, very locked down in terms of their information.
Yeah.
You're right.
And that too is a fact. That's not an analysis. That's a fact. Their propaganda is a fact, and them locking down the internet is a fact. Them controlling the narrative absolutely is a fact. Yeah. What really got me is that propaganda push from the state. The government wants to push that. That's something. And like they say, if somebody's really loud about something, they're probably trying to hide something as well. I mean, that's an old saying. It does hold some wisdom in it. Yeah.
Yeah. And then they've got their goodwill scientists or doctors going to Italy, right, to like study or help them like contain the virus or something like that.
Yeah.
You're right. They've got their goodwill troops and stuff. I mean, look, we all know China's trying to be the USA, right? They're trying to like overtake USA and like, like supplant the USA as like, the global power. So they're going to do stuff like we're, used to doing, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
Hey, let's help you. We're going to help you with our technology figure out a solution to whatever problem, right?
Yeah, China does not want to become the USA. China wants to become the China it once was. China feels they have the original claim to being a superpower. The United States is just filling a spot right now, which is rightfully theirs. This is traditional Chinese thinking, and it's not something new. History is rife with all these events where
right, and it's not unique to China, right? Like every single.
Correct.
I mean, that's just that, right? That's the modus operandi of any ancient system, right? Of any like imperial authoritarian system of government that's been around, right, for ages and ages and ages. That format of government, right, is always says, hey, we're great, right? We come from greatness. We're the best people. We're the smartest, right? We deserve to be on top, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
However, there are also civilizations that were great, but they were not made great, and they did not continue to be great at the cost of the freedoms of their people. And in the modern age, the United States is a good example. The United States, maybe you could also include Canada. They're doing well, comparatively to, say, the Middle East or China or the Southeast. But freedoms, I don't think anybody respects and upholds freedoms like the United States. But it's not at the cost of the freedoms of the people, whereas the Chinese model right now, and even in the past, was, yes, country number one, and it's never we the people, it's always the country or the empire, actually. The empire is number one, and everybody else is a subject, and your primary goal is to make sure the empire remains, or becomes a greatest. That's it.
Right. There's a supreme leader or a god king, right, or some type of elevated, authority.
Right, and somehow then, when the empire becomes great, just as a property or a byproduct of it, you will automatically become great. That's the dream that they have sold forever. However, that dream has never materialized. If you look at it objectively.
You're talking about China specifically?
I'm talking about China. I'm talking about Middle Eastern countries. You can even look at Iran. They have what they call as the supreme leader, Ayatollah. That literally means godsend or something like that, the Holy One.
Right.
You know, so yeah, but
well, this is
particularly
anywhere,
talking
right? Even
about
look
China.
at the British Empire, right? British Empire, right? When the king was in charge, right? Same thing, all that. That's what I mean. Like you go to any system of government that's like, I want to say like medieval, right? Medieval times and before, and now there's still those systems that are around. Basically, this whole democracy stuff is kind of different.
It's fairly new. It's fairly new. Yeah. Yes, but there's a slight difference. I mean, it's interesting you bring the British Empire, but there's a slight difference. In the British Empire, it was still kind of decentralized in a sense. There were different people in different strata. So there was a king, and then under him there were different people who owned land, the barons or whatever they were called, and the dukes and the duchess, and they ran their own systems as well. There was a certain degree of autonomy. In China, even today or even in the past, I don't see that. There's a unit, and there's one clan or one person who leads the whole thing. It's so that's the difference I see. I mean, sure, one can argue, and you're right. There are different facets to it, different ways of looking at it. But it's surprising in today's day and age, China still, even though they don't say it that way, they are still exerting it that way over the world. And this propaganda, that's exactly what it is. And this is to appease the people back home and then start blaming everybody else for your issues. Now, it's not open for debate either. So the propaganda is one way, absolutely. You cannot enter that market and debunk it, except just talk about it, analyze it, like what we are doing right now, comment about it. But we're not allowed to enter and do what we call as a research or a rebuttal to it, because people have zero access in that country. So that makes it tough. I mean, they can put out any statement they want. They can put out any policy they want, and it'll go unopposed. Mm-hmm. Or at least, if not unopposed, without any rebuttal.
Right. And that's right. So you're saying that you noticed, and I've noticed, right, this like propaganda push, right, during this coronavirus time, like, hey,
yes,
right, look how, like, I mean, anything. What's funny is that anything I've ever seen, like the public statements or just statements from like the state outlets, right? It's always funny when I read it. Like, to me, it's like just the way they word it, and like to me, like the propaganda is always very blatant. Like, I don't know, maybe it's just from like coming from the Western world. You read it and you're like, like you laugh because it's kind of corny and it seems old fashioned. You can tell the propaganda there. A better example is North Korea statements, right? It's the same thing. And North Korea is just even more extreme, right? Like this stuff that comes out, right? The great nation of North Korea, like, we're gonna save the day, or we're the best nation in the world, and you're like, what?
It's I know what you mean. It is corny. I mean, things like North Korea, the leader will say, if I'm just throwing something like that. If one of your officials were to come here, we would slap him or something like that. That's just something extremely ridiculous, crude. It makes no sense, but it's pretty blatant. Or we can decimate any country in the world. We are nuclear capable now, and we will do it. Do not mess with us, dude. Nobody was messing with you, but you just made this one-sided argument. You you got pissed off on your own, and now you're just spewing some language. That's yeah. On one hand, another thing, but what's interesting is China, it seems, makes about 90% of the medicines, the antibiotics that America consumes. So on one hand, they say this, and on the other hand, they are the people making your medicines. If China, say for a second, arguendo, if China is telling the truth, right? If China were telling the truth, then why are they about the United States being responsible for this issue, the coronavirus? Right. Okay. Then why is China still manufacturing drugs and helping the United States? And then, if they are so mad about it, are they going to supply those medicines in good faith? And are those medicines going to be any good, or are they going to be tainted?
They don't have to. That's the fantastic thing about a cult, is that everyone outside of your cult is always trying to get you, and you're always the victim. And that's what China is, right? Right. These closed system cults, everyone's, everyone believes the narrative. Not everyone does, though, and that's something I think we should talk about, is that I think we kind of give up sometimes with China, like, hey, that's how it is. Everyone there's brainwashed. But, like, I personally know people, not like a lot of people, because I just don't know that many people from China, but, I work with people who are from China. They moved out of China, and they hate the government there, and they they're not stupid. They know that everything they say is bullshit, and they see through it just like we do, and that's why they moved. And there's people in the country that the same thing, but they're not, there's only so much you can do. You're kind of frozen. You're at fear, at fear of jail or death or whatever. You can't be like, oh, this is stupid. Whatever you guys are saying is lies, right? You can't sell books that are, talk bad against the government. You can't do protests, right, on any scale against the government. So it's all, so if you're there and you think something, you're just going to keep quiet is what you're going to do.
Right. So what I'm trying to say is, China, if they believed the United States was responsible for it, they wouldn't be dealing with the United States. However, they continue dealing with the United States and the entire world. So that just tells me that China does not believe their own propaganda. This is purely what it is. It's propaganda, because they wouldn't be dealing with the United States in that case. This makes no sense. So either one thing is true or the other. They both can't be true. That they are still our partners in trade and helping us out with medicines, right, on one hand, and on the other hand, they believe what they just said. These don't add up. It's really obvious, and it's ridiculous. It's blatant. Just like I said, it makes no sense. Clearly, this is to appease their own people, and their own people, they don't want an uprising. They don't want Chinese government to be overthrown by their people. Dictatorships and authoritarian governments may seem very, very strong, but they are held together by very feeble threads. It's everybody's hand stuck under a rock. However, if the sentiment goes one way and everybody decides we're going to pull our hand at the same time or lift this rock off, it's very easy. The rock collectively can be very easily overthrown. It's only those individual hands that cannot move it. And that's what they do this for. This is to make sure that they keep the clamp down, a small group of people keeping a clamp down on a huge group of people. It's the model that socialists want. Disarm the people. And when I say disarm, it doesn't necessarily mean arms and ammunition. Yes, arms and ammunition, but they also disarm speech. Because the founders of America, very smart, they put the First Amendment, freedom of speech and of religion. You know what that is? Religion they didn't really care much about religion because they were actually fighting it. They ran away from all that.
Mm-hmm.
But they knew that through religion, people get together. They get together, they come together, and when they come together, exchange of ideas occur. That's what it meant. That's what it was. And freedom of the press to put it in print and distribute. So that's the First Amendment. Then they put the second right after it. Right? And they put the second one there
right.
for keeping it a free state. You cannot defend your First Amendment when they come for it. The only way you can finally fight back, when they come for you, for the body, that is your body, you protect your body, physical body, with some physical resistance. It's like Hulk versus whatever, Iron Man. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
If you had only Hulk, the government, and everybody else was just regular people, then there would be no balance, and there would be an authority, supreme authority ruling people,
mm-hmm.
a dictatorship. This is how they designed this country, and that's why there is no dictatorship yet. But the socialists, that's what they do. They disarm you, they disarm your ideas, and they disarm you literally, physically disarmed, and you cannot fight back. Now, one man cannot disarm the entire country. So the Chinese government has its own threads. They have their own people, the Chinese army and all that. But the Chinese army also, they have parents, children, brothers, sisters, who are not all serving in the army. They are poor people. So this propaganda makes sure these hands stay under the rock. And the rock is this Chinese army. There's nothing else to the Chinese government. The strongest arm of the Chinese government or the Communist Party is its army. That's the body that enforces everything. They enforce the traffic of ideas, the internet, and everything. Everything's militarized.
Right, that's the bottom line, right? Because even
that is the bottom line.
Let's say the Communist Party is in power and they had no army, they had a fantastic propaganda machine. It wouldn't matter because in the end, people can push against that without without the muscle, right?
Yes, because all people have to do to fight words is use words. Right now, people cannot use guns because they don't have guns. They have words, but those words they've now realized that using these words leads to bullets being fired at us.
Right. Yeah.
Tiananmen Square.
Trumped by. Yeah.
Tiananmen Square. Boom. Right there. That's an example. They ran over people with tanks. And this is nothing old. This happened literally a few decades ago.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not like that's the last thing that's been publicized in terms of, violent, just oppressive violence, right? That you have a party in power, right? They're right, like you said, they'll run over people with tanks, right? Like run over people with tanks. They'll, like we can start talking about all this stuff China does. You know what I mean? Like
this happened. When was the internet invented in America? Do you know?
It was like it might have actually been as late as the late 80s, but it didn't really gain traction until the 90s. In terms of, the WWW, the widespread, there's the internet between, the military scientists, and that was like the late 80s, and then the WWW, I think, was probably early 90s, but didn't even catch on, mass market till like the mid 90s, I think.
Okay. So I'm just looking up January 1st, 1983. ARPANET adopted TCP/IP, and that's really Internet Protocol. Boom, right? A network of networks. So that means a network for network means a wide area network, network made up of several LANs, local area networks. Okay, there you go. And you know when the Tiananmen Square massacre happened? The incident?
That was what, 86 late 80s?
89.
89?
89,
Man.
yeah. It's very recent. Extremely recent.
That's crazy, man. That's crazy.
A lot of people who listen to this, maybe if we have some listeners, they're going to be, they know what happened in 89, like in America. They kind of can relate to, 89, yeah, it was just around the corner.
Yeah, right.
So this happened right around the corner. Yeah.
Right. They're running people over with tanks.
Yeah. Machine guns, martial law, and military action, basically.
So, okay, I'm going to get in front of the know-it-alls. The know-it-alls are going to say, and this is the type of stuff that I've been taught in school, right? Going to school in the U.S. and going through the public school system is a bit, the U.S., like what about the Kent State massacre? What is it, like something, the protesters, right? Yeah, protesters back in the 70s, protesting Vietnam. And who was it, like the National Guard it wasn't just the police. I want to say it was like National Guard or something like that, fired on the students or something like that.
Yeah.
Then you've got, police killing people and stuff like that. So say, well, who are we to say, whatever. Okay. Interesting. Fine. Whatever. That's something to think about, an important thing to remember though, is that, if you want to make comparisons, this is like having, the Republican Party run over students with tanks. You know what I mean? That's more what it's like.
I get it. That happened in 1970, and that was on some students, right?
Right. Yeah. Right. And the problem is the different, people always do that. Oh, this happened, right? Okay, that was 1970. Do you think that would happen now? You think that Kent State shootings would happen now, right?
Right.
No.
Yes. And
okay, women used to not be able to vote. Okay, we used to have slaves. Do you think any of that would happen now? No. It's been amended to the Constitution, by everybody, right? The culture has changed. The wrongs at least are attempted to be righted, and again, and it's different. You don't have one. A lot of people say, well, there is one party running both parties. Okay, that's valid, but right, you think that would happen today? Things are able to be amended and changed, and bottom line is, like you said, you have a voice, right? You can people can say, fuck you, government, I hate you. Everybody hates President Trump, whatever. They say all these bad things about the president. You can't do that in China. Are you out of your mind, You can't do that, You don't even try it. You go to the re-education camp and have a literacy program.
Or you're just what they call as disappeared. You're just gone.
Yeah, you're right. You're gone.
Yeah. So for how many people were killed in the Kent, whatever town? Four students.
Let's see. Wikipedia. Yeah, May 4th,
killing 4 students. Yeah. So 4 students killed and 9 are wounded, one of whom suffered permanent paralysis. But do you think no action was taken after that? Of course there was. There was no outcry about that. Of course there was. Did more protests? Let me now. This is the most important thing. Did any other protests happen after that in America? The answer is absolutely yes.
Yeah, right. Another good
point. In fact, way more protests.
Right.
So there you go. That's the take from that. So these people who know it all, they make that statement. What they do is they put that fact out there as if the fact counters the entire argument. The entire argument for China is the Tiananmen massacre and everything I said before that, how they are controlling the hands stuck under the rock. I think that's the best analogy I can come up with. You can overthrow it, but only collectively. And they won't let that happen. And there's no other protests happening. They tried the Hong Kong protests, and the only reason the Hong Kong protests even went on for that long is because Hong Kong was a British territory, and it attracts a lot of British intellectual traffic even today.
Mm-hmm.
The Hong Kong Shanghai Bank and everything is set up by the British. The English-speaking people there. The internet is not as controlled there. People have access to different things there. There are foreigners there. So if they have to clamp down, you are bringing the wrath of many countries. So that's why Hong Kong could afford to have protests. No other protests happened anywhere else. And if they did, they were squashed right away. So that's the major difference. So next time anybody brings that up to you, hey, we did that too. The Vietnam War protesters were killed. Yes, the protests happened. They were killed. Yes. But guess what? Many more protests happen today and nobody gets killed. And there's an opposing force. They didn't bring out tanks and stuff like that. They didn't bring out the National Army for it. Yeah, the National Guard is one thing. The governor got those people involved, obviously, because the governor, right? Governors have the power to summon National Guard. Right. Maybe they thought, hey, these protests are going to get out of hand. People are throwing, I don't know, beer bottles, and people are getting unruly. We don't know what's going to happen. Let's bring some people in, and maybe some National Guards got trigger happy. Is it right? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. The National Guard is not designed to kill American citizens, much less protesters. Right. Now, if the protesters become unruly, if it's a verbal protest is one thing, if it's armed protest it's another. But I don't think any of those students had any guns, so I don't know why guns were drawn against the students.
Yeah, I don't know the details of it. Yeah, I'm just saying, and we could go.
We can. Exactly.
There's always I'm just saying that's the type of argument that you hear that was taught to us in public schools to we were taught to self-hate, and there's this attitude of self-hate America, and always be everybody, Iran, China, whoever it might be, they do bad stuff, and the answer is always, but look at all the bad stuff we've always done,
We do.
Oh, look how bad we are. You know what I mean? Right. Look how bad we are. Let's let everybody else, do what they want or whatever. It's a stupid. It's something that's been taught, and again, I'm saying that because I went through public school and I realized that's how it was. That was the curriculum. That attitude doesn't come from nowhere, and it didn't come from. It's not what my parents taught me, it's what I learned in school.
Right. Yeah. So nowhere in that curriculum will they end it by saying, however, the good news is we can have protests anytime. The protests never stop. We can still have protests. Do they ever teach you that part, or they leave that alone?
No, I mean, you're taught that, but it's almost like you're taught that, but you're taught to feel smart to point out those sins. You know what I mean?
Right.
Oh yeah, but look what I know. Actually, the U.S. did this. You know what I mean? So you can't say. It's always this the people who are like that. You say one thing, they always want to say the opposite. It doesn't even matter, right? They're just contradictory kind of people. That type of weird attitude. That's kind of the I don't know, the backbone or this thread that's woven into the curriculum.
I'm surprised. When you say they teach this at public schools, that means the majority of people are taught that.
Well, yeah, and I'd love for
scary.
Someone, it is scary, and that's why we have the culture that we have right now. And it's there's this culture, and again, it's not everybody, but I'd love for someone to come on and tell me they had a different experience in public school, but I don't think so, because that's why you have the culture that you have now. You have this self-hate of America, it's not okay to be patriotic for some reason, and and I get it, because patriotism and this pride for your team, right, for your country, it can go overboard, and it has. Yeah. And I think that's why it's part of the curriculum, because the people who are writing that curriculum are kind of having a reaction to that, the people going overboard. So they teach you, whoa, patriotism is bad because look at all this bad stuff that happened, right? The Red Scare. Yeah, the Red Scare back in the 30s, and we put people in jail because we thought they were communists and maybe they weren't, right? It went overboard. But so I believe, my opinion is that it's kind of this reactionary, anyway, a reaction to that. But what it does is create, this culture where people think like that, and all they do is think about the negative. It teaches you to think like that, like a hater. You're a hater. People who are haters and who are negative, they're not productive, right? They're not seeing the good and the benefit, of something like you said, the freedom that we have, right?
Correct. It consumes them. Hate consumes you, and if you cannot let go or forgive, that whatever happened to you, whatever act, or didn't even happen to you, whatever you're thinking, but it's fueling your hate, it's going to keep fueling it. It only gets bigger and bigger. It's like a runaway fire. It's a forest fire. It's only going to just grow unchecked.
Yeah. And I think other countries take advantage of that. Sorry.
Yeah, of course. They anybody who has any interest in the fall or the downfall, maybe, okay, or even the even the underdevelopment of the United States, yeah, they're going to rejoice. They're going to take advantage of it. Why wouldn't they? And okay, it's not just that. There was a report, and this was in the news very briefly, and then everybody forgot about it, that the Chinese government had funded a lot of professors in Harvard.
Right.
Now think about it. They're taking money from Harvard, from the Chinese government, and what are they really doing there? Like, what is the harm in that? What do you think? Is it just a propaganda, or there's something more?
Right.
Now, a lot of people said, well, it's propaganda. The Chinese government is spreading their message through these professors. No, it's not just that. Think about it. The Chinese government is known, and it has been proven, to steal intellectual property from America. The technological advances and stuff like that. But that's after the technology is developed. They steal it. By funding professors and having professors on their payroll, what they're doing is they're controlling the research as well now. They don't have to steal your technology after it's done and after you have filed patents or tried to protect it. They're stealing it from day one.
Right.
It's like what's that bird which lays an egg in another bird's nest, and then the other bird incubates it, and the hatchlings hatch. The other bird feeds it as if it's its own, and then the bird flies away.
Wait, why does it lay the egg in the other bird's nest? So the other bird will take care of it?
Yes.
I thought you were going to say it hatches and then it eats the other birds.
No, because it doesn't have to do anything. The female bird, lays an egg. I think there's some bird, and it lays an egg in the crow's nest. And the crows feed this as if, they do everything for this bird, and that bird doesn't even belong to the crow. What I'm trying to say is the Chinese lay their intellectual quests as eggs in our nests. Our professors create that nest, and we, the citizens, invest our time and our resources because our scientists and students, future scientists, are working in Harvard doing the research. We, because it's an educational institution, are pouring money in it. People are paying fees and they're getting grants from everywhere, and then we incubate their eggs, then we raise their hatchlings, and then they fly away.
Right.
That's the analogy. Yes, with our money, exactly, our resources, our time, our labs, our electricity, our everything.
Right.
And all they have to do is just control the nest. And these are the guys.
But they're just being friendly, right? They're just.
That's right.
What do people say? What do people say about that one? Anything? I haven't heard anybody say any good arguments about that one.
They say you're being racist against Chinese people.
Right. Oh, yeah, being racist, right? Or that it doesn't happen or something.
Right. Now, remember, in my argument, I never said Chinese people. I said the Chinese government, the communist government, implants these people or employs these people, and they make this happen.
Yeah, you're right.
Chinese people have nothing to do with this. This is and I didn't do it because I'm being careful in my speech. I'm just being very clear in my speech because that's what I do for a profession, right? I'm saying what I mean. I don't have to hide behind something. There is no hidden message here. If there were a hidden message, I wouldn't be delivering that message because the message is hidden. This is a straight message. This is exactly how I would play that game too. So they learned it from these birds. And another thing that happens, it seems the hatchlings also destroy the other eggs or hatchlings, and they kick them out. They just kick them out of the nest, and the other hatchlings die, and the other eggs die, and this hatchling just sits there and consumes everything. That's worse.
That's what I was waiting for. Yeah. So what is that? What kind of bird is that? Do you have any idea?
I think it's the cuckoo. The cuckoo bird.
The one that's
the cuckoo bird lays an egg in the crow's nest.
The cuckoo? Which one's extinct? The dodo bird.
Yeah, the dodo is probably extinct. Yeah, the cuckoo is thriving, man. That's never going to go extinct.
Cuckoo. Well,
it's a brood parasite.
Right?
They call it a parasite. Yeah, it's a parasite, right?
So what do they do? What if the cuckoo hatches in another bird's nest? The chick will roll the other eggs out of the nest by pushing them with the back over the edge. What? If the host eggs, hatch before the cuckoo chick will push the other chicks out of the nest in a similar way. Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. There you go.
Yep.
I bet you.
Perfect analogy, right?
Yeah, perfect analogy. That's crazy.
That's exactly what. That. And the funny thing is, we actually call it an incubator for ideas. We actually use that word, incubation.
That's right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, okay, right, because incubation is,
Yeah.
But you're right.
But yeah, there you go. We even use that term, so it's a perfect fit. So
what's funny is that people what bothers me, and it's bothering me more and more, is that I talked about that cultural thing, that idea, right? That the way I was taught in public school to think, right? That's around, and people don't here we go. We're looking at an example from nature, right? The cuckoo bird, right, lays its egg in the other bird's nest, and the cuckoo bird, kills all the other birds in the nest. People think, I don't know why, but I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know, I feel like people in our country, not all of them, but a lot of them, think that that's not real. They think that case, maybe that the cuckoo bird doesn't apply to humans, right? That humans don't do that. You know what I mean?
Right.
That we're just so, I don't know, we're just so good and everything's good and nobody does anything bad. No one's strategic or sneaky. They know it, but you know what I mean?
They're in denial. They are in denial.
Yeah.
They feel if they thought like that, and if they voiced their real thoughts, they would be branded as racist or whatever the fashionable term of today is, because they do that to other people. They brand people. They call people things and names. They fight hate with hate, but they don't want to acknowledge that. They say, no, I don't hate anybody. I only hate those people. But why do you hate those people? Oh, because those people hate some other people. Oh, so you're just completing this chain of hatred. But you are good because you are hating on people who you presume or think are hating on other people. It somehow just solves the problem.
Right. As long as you're bullying the bully, you're good.
Right.
Where does that come from, too, right? That's a weird thing, right? Where does that come from?
That, I'm sure it comes. I will come up with an analogy very soon. I haven't thought about that yet, but I'm sure one of those stories will come to me, like which I've read somewhere in my life, and say, oh yeah, that fits the bill. That's exactly how that works. This bully, there are fables. Remember those fables where, the monkey and two cats fighting over things, and the monkey takes sides once in a while, and the cats keep fighting, and finally the monkey is the one who takes off with the bounty.
Right.
Yeah, so the politicians are we are the monkeys, they're the, we are the cats, they're the monkeys, and here we are, we think we're doing great. So there's a story in India, and I'm sure it's very similar. There are similar stories elsewhere. All these fables somehow kind of sound the same. And I don't know which one came first, but I already answered your question between chicken and egg. What came first, the chicken or the egg? The answer is neither. It was the duck. And that laid an egg. There was a problem with it, and here came the chicken. But in that fable, so there are these two cats, and they're fighting over butter. And the monkey is up on the tree, and he says, hey, guys, why are you squabbling and quarreling? Well, we're trying to divide this butter. He's trying to take more than me. And the monkey says, how about this? I'll solve the problem for you. I'll divide it for you fairly. And they say, yep, there you go, because we cannot do it on our own. So Joe Biden comes in, and Joe Biden says, let me divide this for you, right? You squabbling cats. Now, Joe Biden has some share in China, a lot of business dealings in China, but that's besides the point. Let's just make him a monkey for today. So what he does is he takes the butter and he divides it in two portions. He knows what's going to happen now. One cat says, oh, no, you gave the other cat more. He's like, oh, really? All right. So what he does is he takes a scoop from the allegedly largest share of butter and eats it. And now that share is less. He's like, all right, there you go, good. And the other cat says, oh, no, the other guy got more now. He's like, oh, okay, all right, here. And then he scoops some from the cat number one. Cat number one now says cat number two has more. And so on and so forth. He keeps scooping back and forth, until they're left with no butter. There's no butter left. And he says, there you go. You're both equal now.
Yeah,
nothing else happens. Yeah, nothing else happens. That's the end of story. And then now, yeah, the cats are so dumb. Now you would think the ending of the story would the cat would say, "Oh, you are such a crafty monkey. We're going to get you." No, nothing happens. That's the end of story. The moral of the story is, don't let Joe Biden run this country. The man is invested in China heavily. His family is invested in foreign countries. Just like you guys want to point a finger at Donald Trump and all his businesses everywhere, Joe Biden doesn't even own businesses anywhere. He just has hands in business. He says, I'll run the show. You give me my fair share. You give me the butter. And here you're squabbling cats. He's your man. He's the man who's aligned.
Well, that's why the Obama Clinton Democratic machine, I won't say Democrat machine, wants Joe Biden, right? I mean, they
yes,
right. That's why they're pushing Bernie out. They want Joe Biden. He's just gonna be like, he's like I think isn't it just kind of obvious? It seems to me that he's gonna be like, if he was president, he would just be up there smiling, and there would be other people just running amok, like doing whatever, man. It's just like,
Dude, people think Donald Trump is the man with the art of the deal. No, the biggest deal maker is Mr. Biden. He made deals with his people in Delaware when it was fashionable to be against anti-segregation. So, to put it in simple terms, he was pro-segregation. He wanted segregation. Blacks and whites, you stay separate. Then when it became fashionable to be pro-anti-segregation, that is, to bring people together, then they said, sure, we'll start voting that way. So this guy plays both sides of the drum. This is your man.
Like him and his whole family are like known for that, right? Is what I've
correct.
Seen. I'm not an expert, but that's what I've read about.
Yes, his brother, his sons. It's a dynasty. There's a Clinton dynasty. There's a Bush dynasty, and then there's the dirtiest of dynasties. That's the Biden dynasty. I'm not even exaggerating. This man is the guy. Why do you think Barack Obama picked Joe Biden? Just out of the blue, really? No, he's the guy. He's your man.
Yeah.
And now he's running, and now he's winning, and they don't want Bernie Sanders because Bernie Sanders is a socialist. Sure, I understand he's not something great. He's a con man in his own capacity, but he's not great at these kind of deals. And Washington now is waiting for deals because under Trump, the whole system has been disrupted.
Stopped, yeah. Yep.
There's nobody's working together. Nobody can work together because he's a loudmouth and he's brash. And if we do something, he's going to talk about it or leak it or something's going to happen. It's not working for them. It's not working for them anymore. And they can't risk another 4 years of this guy.
Right. We need the deal. You're right. That's a funny, man. That's a good, very poignant point right there, right? Joe, right? Trump's not the deal guy. Joe Biden is the deal guy. You're right. They want the deals to start flowing again, huh? Like, hey, man, we can't make deals, right? We can't do this business like we've been doing. We need Smiling Joe back, perfect.
Yes.
Yeah, we're very happy to have him back in office. And let's get back to business. We've been disrupted here for the past 4 years.
Exactly. He is the guy. I mean, I would even go as far as to say that Trump is actually a deal breaker. He's broken all deals, all these Paris Accord, China deals, Mexican deals, every deal. He's broken every deal, and then he's trying to put a new deal in place. And the new deals are pretty transparent. People know what's going on. And
he's
people
a disruptor,
Yeah, he's a disruptor. He disrupted everything.
People about disruptors. He's like
it's like
disruptor.
Nature. Right. It's like nature taking over. He became president because nature took over.
Yep.
Nature had to destroy everything to rebuild. But these guys want to stop that. They want to put brakes on nature, and they say, hey, man, we need to get back and get some deals done. The whole China things, everything happening with China. And listen, these guys are not some, people think, oh, yeah, they're fighting for our grandchildren. No, they're in the fight for their own. This is it.
Yeah.
And they are so consumed. Joe Biden is old. He has enough money to retire and go home.
Yeah.
But under the guise of public service, he wants to continue running this show. Now, there are talks that there might be a VP like Kamala Harris or what's her other name? What's the other lady who's the Native Indian? Warren. Right? Native Indian.
Right. Yeah,
Warren.
Native American Warren.
Native American, sorry, not Native Indian. I get, there's so many names, like it's Indians and then Americans and Natives, and I don't know, man. Just call them.
You're not allowed to
give them ask
shit.
them what we should be calling them, because they probably want to be called by their own tribe names, not some native or this and that. But either way. So we've just like bunched all of them. Oh yeah, you guys, you all tribes who actually are very different tribes, and you have their own system, language, and everything. You're all one. That's it. That's the most racist thing you can do, right? Like calling all Chinese people, all Korean people, oh yeah, you're all Chinese.
Yeah.
No, we are Korean. No, we are Singaporean. Or we are Indonesian. Oh yeah, you're all Chinese. Everybody's Chinese. No, that's racist, and this is also very racist. Yeah, Native American. There's no such thing as fucking Native American.
Well, that's
they are
the
their
problem.
own proud people. They have their own tribes. They have their own names, identities. Everything's their own. It's like calling all white people, oh yeah, your name's John Smith. No, my name's not John Smith. I'm actually James Lawson or whatever my name is. No, it's John Smith. Yeah, I see you have a fancy way of saying it as James, but it's actually John Smith. It's not John Smith. It's ridiculous. It's equally ridiculous to call every Irish person some Irish name, like I don't know, Conor McGregor. They're not all Conor McGregor. They're different names. But here you've bunched all these people together and called them Native Americans. Yeah, what were you saying?
That's the problem with. I'm just saying that's the problem with that. It's always driven me nuts. That's a problem with classifying people, right? Putting people in classes like that.
Yeah. As if you're doing them a favor, and then fight for their rights and those kind of things. Oh God, Joe Biden! I'm telling you, man, this guy is really the biggest deal maker guy. They can't wait to get this guy back in power.
That's a really good point. I hadn't thought about him like that, because I thought, remember I was telling you the other day, I'm like, why didn't they have like Cuomo run or something, right? Like Governor Cuomo of New York, he's like a tough guy. He's like younger. He's like, you could see him putting up a good fight. He's got, political blue blood. He's the governor of New York, guy. All this good stuff, right? Yeah. Yeah,
but, he's definitely a smart guy. He probably has better grades in law school than Joe Biden, who was accused of plagiarism. He was stealing people's notes or papers, and this guy is actually a con job, man. It's a con job, but he's a car salesman. He's a car salesman.
So they love him, not just accepted. They really are excited about Joe Biden,
because they all want to sell cars.
That's funny, man. He always struck me as a car salesman.
Yeah, he's a car salesman, and then Obama was even a bigger salesman. He actually did things with cars. Remember the cash for clunkers or whatever?
Cash for clunkers, right? That was probably Biden's idea then, I guess.
Yeah, it's actually to do with cars. These guys actually did something with cars, right? And here's your car salesman number 2. Yeah. Yeah. People don't see this. I don't know how they forget all this.
It's like the commercials with Billy Fusillo, right? Bring your car. It's huge.
Yeah. And they, the whole focus is on Donald J. Trump. Dude, he's not even like 10% of the deal maker as these guys. These guys will sell their grandmothers and your grandmothers and everybody's grandmothers, and then sell them more, and then sell cars to those grandmothers. These guys are ridiculous, man.
Slick,
dirty.
Right?
These are dirty politicians, and I don't understand why we need career politicians.
We don't. That's the thing. They're the club, right? They're all like in the same frat or something, and like, bro, we get to run the government. You hear people talk about how that class, right, that ruling class is like, they believe that they do. It's like the cool kids at school, like they think they're supposed to run everything and they're better than everybody, and that's the way, God made it or something, right?
And they laugh at you. At you. And that's what happened. They laughed at Donald Trump. Remember the whole, when they had their, what are they called? The debates. Mm-hmm. Everybody laughed at him. He was that buffoon.
Yeah, you're
according to them.
Right.
And they laughed at him because they were the cool kids. He was rich, but didn't matter. Rich doesn't get you in the club. You also need to be born cool kid.
Right. Yeah,
and he was
like
neither,
weirdo.
right? Yeah, he was a weirdo for them.
Yeah.
That's why they were laughing at him. And then one day it dawned upon them, hey man, this just got real. He is president. And they can't believe it to date.
Yeah.
Even today, this didn't just happen. And now they're scared. Are you serious? This is going to happen for another 4 years?
Mm-hmm.
He's not in the club. He's not a club member. He doesn't belong to royalty. We are royalty.
Yeah, and he's screwing everything up. Like, come on, guys. We got first right. First he's stupid, then he's crazy, then he's dangerous, then he's mentally unfit, then all this stuff, right? Like, look, we got. You're right, man. It's just like those high school movies where you have like the girls, the plastics, right? The Mean Girls movie. You ever seen that one?
No, I have not, but I can imagine what it probably is. Like some rich girls or cool girls getting together, and everybody else is an outsider.
Exactly. And then they like get together. They character destroy the ugly girls, and there's the fat girls that make fun of them. It's a funny movie. You should watch it sometime. But you're right. That's totally predictable storyline. You're right. It's the same thing. It's that class. Hey, we're the cool kids. All part of the same group. We all went to the same college or whatever, right? And then we've got this like retard who's out here.
And then if you really respect Elizabeth Warren and Amy Klobuchar and Kamala Harris and all the other women of minority and of color, whatever, just give them the nomination. Why even fight over it? Why do you want to wield the power and then, help them operate in your shadow?
Yeah.
This is all class warfare. These people really think they're better than everybody else, and they want to snatch the nomination out of. Listen, Barack Obama was an aberration. It's not going to happen again, because there are viable candidates out here. But Joe Biden, now this guy, is 75, 78, whatever his age is, this guy is running for president, and he's so confident that he's going to sell the most cars. That's exactly what this is about.
Well, it's just like Clinton, right? Same thing. Everybody knew. Like, it was like, you could just smell it on her, right? That like, oh, she knew it was her turn. You know what I mean? Like, she just, she was the, what's it called when you're the in England, the queen, like the girls who the princess is like the heir.
Oh, the heir.
You know what I mean? The heir. Yeah, the heir. Yeah, right.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
Yep.
And here we go. We got Joe. Slick Joe. The deal maker Joe.
Yep. The car salesman Joe.
Like, right. And so they're laughing at Bernie, and they're like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, he has
they're laughing at him.
of a
they're
car
screw
salesman.
him again.
He dresses like a car salesman. He is a car salesman. His hands are in all deals international, and this is your man. And no clear-cut policy, nothing. And another point, dude, we don't need any more policies. Let's give policy a break. This is like an overhyped thing. Policy making and all that is just a hype. People got to understand this. All these companies were also making policies, how efficient their cars are going to be and everything. I know I come back on cars, and then Elon Musk just goes out there and says, "Hey guys, I got this. Watch. just hold my coffee. Now watch. You don't need you don't need to make more efficient internal combustion engines anymore. What? Are you stupid? Yeah, watch this."
Yeah.
And he just goes out and makes an electric car. There's no policy requirement for this. It's a decision. It's an evolution.
Yeah.
This is all BS, like policy on this and policy on that. If they really wanted to make policies on things, they could start with all the basics. Remember, nobody talks about basics. It's all these abstract, multi-layered policies where everything gets lost. And, I do want to talk about some policies that supposedly Bernie Sanders not the policies he wanted to implement, but he wanted some ideas implemented, right? Next time we should talk about that as to how he could implement, or he could have implemented those, or anybody in government could implement them very easily.
Well, Bernie has no clue. I'm convinced. I mean, he's right. He's one of those. He just points out all these problems, which he
obvious
makes some good
problems.
points. Yeah, obvious problems. And like, okay, but then
we
there's
all
like
need
zero
umbrellas.
Solution.
We all must have umbrellas. Yeah, Bernie, it's raining. We get it. We all must wear hats now. You must have a hat. You must have a hat. We all must have a hat. We live in a country where it's unfair that only the top 1% has a hat, and we all must have a hat. You're right, buddy. Yeah. Yeah, you're right, because it's fucking sunny. We understand we need hats. No, but what I'm saying very loudly is we all need hats. Okay, Bernie, how do you make hats? We all need umbrellas. Yeah, we're talking about hats. Yeah, well, whatever. Let's talk about something else now. Then he diverts.
Right.
It's diversion. Right. There's no depth to it. There's only latitude, no longitude in his system. When there's no intersection of ideas. He doesn't know.
Right. No, you've got it right. You've got Biden.
When I say he doesn't know, you know why I say that, Chase? Because some of these guys don't know.
I don't think he does.
These guys, not all of them. Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No. Go ahead, man.
I'm saying I think you're totally right about Bernie. Is that he's just a total con man. He's a con artist. You got Biden, who's a con artist, but he's in the cool kids group. You know what I mean? He's in the right class. Bernie's not in the right class. He's just a total
Bernie
con man.
thinks. Bernie is the guy who stands by the door, and everybody passing around thinks he also belongs to that room full of people. Bernie's an outsider who's standing at the threshold. He has his supporters, and you know who his supporters are? Everybody on that threshold. They're all threshold people. They're neither here nor there.
Yeah,
all his followers also want to be the cool kids. They want to be the 1%. They want to share the coolness, the fun activities of the 1%ers. They want that. Bernie has no clue how to do it. He's never been able to enter, and none of that.
I think Bernie just takes advantage of the, of this cry out that there is, right? The cry from people that got Trump elected, of everyone who's tired of having these useless cool kids run things that don't do anything, that don't, you know what I mean, that have, that understand that these policies are not policies, like you said, and we don't have a system where we can get test kits for coronavirus. You know what I mean? We don't have a system where everybody spends all their money on going to the doctor. Why am I paying an insurance company? Why don't I just pay the doctor? You know what I mean? All this crazy stuff that people are waking up to. Bernie takes advantage of that.
I think we need to talk about just Bernie Sanders and all his messes. So, we need to make all these bullet points as to what he keeps talking about. And if he talks about answers, he talks about obvious problems.
Right, obvious problems, right? That resonate with people.
Yeah,
he's got Captain zero obvious. Answer.
Yeah, he's Captain Obvious, and that's his answer.
Right. Captain Obvious, and for some reason his disheveled act is kind of I'm not saying it's an act, maybe that's really how it is, but it seems like it just feels like it. That appeals look, he's not slick like the rest of the guys, He's even slicker.
And millionaires and billionaires, and he's a fucking millionaire himself.
Right.
And the funny thing is, they actually asked him, hey, now that you've made all these millions, are you going to share some of your wealth with people? He actually just nodded and smiled, and he went off on a tangent. Never answered that question. Yeah, they actually asked him that exact question. Now that you've made it, you've made millions, are you willing to share it? And then he went off on, we're taxing the 1%, less than people who make 30,000. And they said, you've made several $1 million. You're a millionaire. Are you willing to pay more taxes? Then he said, we'll tax the tax system is different. And then the reporter, thank God, like she I think it was CNN or Fox or one of those channels. She said, well, nothing stops you from paying more taxes, though. You can voluntarily pay more taxes. And that is the truth. You can overpay and never get a refund. Because they send you a refund check, right? But you can, if you don't cash it, you don't cash it. Mm-hmm. The money is there with the IRS, the government, the people. Mm-hmm. He can do that. Warren Buffett can do it too. But he wants to say it. Warren Buffett makes the most money in trading. Yeah. He's the guy who controls the market. And here he is constantly telling people, Bill Gates constantly telling people that you need to raise. Dude, you can just pay. Don't wait for it.
Right.
Yeah, nobody. Right. You don't need to wait for it. This is very disingenuous of you to say, oh, the system doesn't require me. Yeah, of course it doesn't require you, but it doesn't stop you.
Right. It doesn't stop them from creating their own policies to change things, right?
Exactly.
You're the richest people in the world. The effect you can have on society, how things are done, right? They don't do it.
Elon Musk. Okay, I'm going to give you another Elon Musk question, right? Answer, right? Elon Musk makes this car, and then he's realized all these insurance companies are screwing people over, and they actually charge more for a Tesla. You know why? Because it has the auto driving capability. Guess what he did? There's a Tesla insurance company now.
Yep. Right.
And
we've got all the data. We'll know exactly how people drive, all this stuff.
And they give you the best rate. If you are a better driver, you're gonna get cheaper and cheaper insurance. Yep. He said, okay, if people are taking advantage of you, no problem. I'll do this for you.
Yep.
Boom. And he doesn't even have half the money these people have. But he did it. Right. Nothing stopped him from doing it. Berkshire Hathaway or whatever he owns, Warren Buffett, he can start an insurance company in competition with all the insurance companies, right? And say, all right, I'm just going to give you 50% off every time you don't have an accident in the year. So first year you pay, say, 1,000. Next year you pay 500, and the year after 250, then 125 until you pay nothing.
Yep. Right.
He can do that.
Or any of zillions of things that he could do, right?
Yes.
What has Warren Buffett done? You know what I mean? To fix society, right? To make things better.
I'll tell you what they do. To fix society. They give out donations to causes they supposedly believe in, and they get tax write-offs on those causes. My thing is, if you really believe in the cause so much, you wouldn't take tax write-offs. You would say, hey, I deserve to pay these taxes, I want to pay these taxes, and I won't take any tax write-offs. Yeah. Or you will pay the tax and then give it out of your personal wealth. Yeah. All these, we can do a session about Bill Gates, Melinda Gates Foundation.
We should,
Dude, these guys are scammers. These guys are scammers. I'm telling you, these guys are scammers. They destroyed the world first. And now they are pretending to rebuild it because the guilt has got to them. And you know what has got to them? They've realized they're going to die. They're going to die. They're getting old. They're old. And they want to somehow make themselves feel good about things. This is not about the world. Now it is about Bill Gates himself. His legacy. He feels he's going to leave a legacy. But I've got news for you, Mr. Gates. There are people who still remember what you did in the third world countries when you launched Windows. When you did these things, how you profited from everything. Their whole marketing strategy was 100% profit driven, and they destroyed companies in third world countries. Bill Gates single-handedly destroyed all his competition. You want to hear more about it? Read US v. Microsoft. It's an antitrust case. The United States government, with all its deal-making, finally couldn't take it. They said, this is really big. There's a case. I'm making up nothing. And that's a 101 case. That's a 101 case in antitrust law.
To talk about. Yeah, that would be a good
antitrust
thing to do.
101. Anti-competitive behavior. Yep, anti-competitive behavior, market fixing, tying product, and tied product. If you buy Windows, it's tied with Internet Explorer. But what they did not, what most people forgot is it also removed Netscape Navigator and all other browsers from it, and they destroyed a different kind of industry. We would have had a different revolution regarding the internet if Bill Gates wouldn't have destroyed this. And Bill Gates knew what he was doing.
You're right.
He destroyed a lot of people, a lot of lives. Now he's trying to rebuild lives, malaria and all those kind of things.
Yeah, save all the poor people from malaria.
Save all the poor people who he had a hand in making poor. They make you poor, then they give you canned food. You know why they give you canned food? Because you don't deserve caviar. They make you poor and they give you canned food. They give you canned apples and canned vegetables and all these fruits. You know why? Because they believe you don't deserve caviar and fresh produce like them.
What's funny is that it's not funny, but like a lot of people would say that what you're saying is very it's a really cynical view, right? Like it's a cynical view. It's maybe it's a little twisted from the reality of what really happened. Or
a lot of people say that
maybe,
those are the people who have never lived my life in a country in India where there was no hope ever. These are the people who read books about India, about being Indian, about the poverty in India. They write a paper and then they're given a PhD on Indian studies or whatever studies they take part in. They are the exchange students who go to a university in India and they live insulated lives. They live lives and they share some of the poverty for a week or two or for 6 months, but they also know whenever they want, they have this eject button. When the plane's crashing, they can eject and abort. We don't get an abort mission option. And that's why we have a different view. These are the people who study it from afar. It's like saying, I know everything about the moon because I've looked at it.
Yeah.
I've stared at it every night. I've written poems about it, and I've read poems about it. So clearly, I'm a lunar expert.
It is that insulated, not just insulated like you said when they go to India, but insulated and being privileged and insulated and having a life where things are good, you know what I mean, in terms of, and again, we talk about the culture of the United States, right? This is like that, this insulated culture where you have air conditioning and everything's smooth and nobody's running your country, and you know what I mean? Like things are good, and you can afford that attitude where you're like, oh, that detachment from reality is what it is. Like all of a sudden, when everything's good, you think that life is good and that the world's good, but that's not reality, right? The reality is that Microsoft did that, right? That they destroyed all the competition,
they destroyed businesses, and even today, their closed ecosystem is causing more pollution. More machines are bought by people because they cannot use. There's no cross-platform. Microsoft does not provide anything free to anybody forever, even though they can afford it. Simple services, old technology, outdated technology is still protected by businesses, by the business model of Microsoft. I'll give you simple examples. If you have an iPad, a very basic iPad, you can have free Microsoft Word and Excel, but in a very limited format. But if you buy anything that is more than 9.7 inches screen size, so an iPad Air, which is the latest, you can't buy the old iPad Airs anymore. Apple doesn't make it. Those Microsoft has designated them because they are larger than 9.7 inches. They are not free. You need to buy into Microsoft, even to write a document. And you know what? Most people use an iPad to write a document. They're not using it for professional users. These are poor students who are trying to write a letter to maybe their college or maybe on behalf of their mother to some organization to get some help for the mom or something like that. They're writing an application to get a job at Stewart's or something like that. This is what it is. This is what Microsoft does even today.
Well, no one even does. Anybody even use I guess they do. I'm just kind of joking.
They do,
but, right? Like,
yeah,
so
no,
then
no,
came
you're right.
then came like the open source revolution.
I
after
understand
that, right?
open source,
Exactly.
but the problem with open source is it's not compatible everywhere either. And Microsoft, everybody knows they've used it. They've used it somewhere. Now they know how to use it, but like I said, it's not cross-platform. They won't do it, and even when they do it, it's always, you can't walk straight because Bill Gates just decided to chop off your leg a little bit, so now you're left with a little stump, and he says, "All right, go around, hobble around on that stump," and that's your life. You know why? Because that's all you deserve. Right. You don't belong to this club.
You're right, and you're making the point, regardless of even all those details, you're making the point that, like, that's the world that Bill Gates created, right? You're just,
exactly.
You said and he feels bad. He could have done it differently, right? He could have done it differently.
He can still change it. He can still change it, but he has not.
Right.
What I'm saying is, not only did Bill Gates create that world, he still controls that world. And then he has this other side where he's giving out malaria medicines in Africa to feel good about himself. Because there's some money that he knows if he does not spend right now, it's going to vanish somewhere else.
Right.
Dude, these guys have planned it all, man. It all seems good. It's like the return policy at a store, right? Everybody says, oh, that store has a 90-day return policy. Dude, that policy came about because of the UCC, the Uniform Commercial Code. It mandated this policy. That's why these stores have a return policy. Yeah. Those who are exempt of this policy do not have this policy. People need to understand this. They don't know the whole picture.
Yeah, I think it's,
and that's why, if somebody asks me, hey, do you love Donald Trump? I said, no, I don't have to love him. Do you love Barack Obama? I said, no, I don't have to love any of these guys. Do you idolize anybody or any one of them? I said, no, I don't idolize them. If I had to idolize somebody, I would idolize my parents. They raised me. These guys don't even know I exist. They are public servants. They're supposed to do a job. They were elected to do a job. And whoever does the job he said he would do is good enough. And that's it.
Mm-hmm.
There's no looking up to somebody and worshiping somebody and blindly following somebody. I mean, there are some things Trump has done that are great for the economy here, and that is good. And the things that he's handling right now regarding coronavirus and the lax attitude and him constantly patting his own back, that's ridiculous. They're calling the game before the game has even ended. Oh, we won. No, you didn't win. The game's not even started, buddy. This is just the beginning. This is just a trailer. They're caught with their pants down. Yeah, so, Bill Gates, all these con men, we got to talk about these people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're right, huh? Have like